The Harrier Jump Jet is a proud symbol of British engineering, instantly recognizable for its unique shape and its incredible ability to hover, something few other fixed-wing aircraft can do. The iconic aircraft has a legendary reputation in both pop culture, from movies to video games and in real-life combat records. One of the Harrier's most famous appearances in pop culture was in the movie True Lies. The film featured a 47-foot-long replica of the Harrier that was placed on top of a 20-story building. While the scenes were spectacular, they were far from realistic, especially in terms of hover duration, ammunition count, and engine noise levels. Still, the film is a great watch. Now, let's focus on the Harrier's history and real-life uses while reviewing some of its pop culture appearances. The Harrier was the first jet to successfully perform a vertical takeoff and landing in the West, until the arrival of the F-35B Lightning II in 2008. However, it should be noted that the F-35B is more often classified as a short takeoff and vertical landing STOVL aircraft, since vertical takeoffs can put significant stress on the airframe and limit payload. The Harrier's capabilities are supported by special features such as additional air doors that allow the engines to take in extra air while hovering, replacing the airflow from forward movement. The most interesting feature is, of course, the 4 large rotating nozzles. During vertical takeoff, the nozzles are pointed downward, then rotate to a horizontal position for forward flight. To lift the 15,000-pound aircraft, the Harrier's engines produce 24,000 pounds of thrust. The landing process is done the other way around, bringing the aircraft into a hover position. When hovering, the aircraft's wings no longer produce lift, so the aircraft relies entirely on the downward thrust of the engines. To control its position while hovering, the Harrier is equipped with small air ducts on the wingtips, nose, and tail. In hover mode, the engines run at full power and consume fuel rapidly. To prevent the engines from overheating, 500 pounds of water is injected into the engines, allowing the aircraft to hover for up to 90 seconds. However, this duration can vary depending on load and air temperature. The prolonged hovering sequences seen in the movies are obviously unrealistic, as is the use of hovering for ambushes. The Harrier's engines would quickly overheat. In practice, hover mode was mostly used for landings, with only a small number of takeoffs being made vertically. The ability to land vertically allows the Harrier to operate close to the front lines, even in locations such as highways or parking lots. This vertical landing capability has also saved several pilots. One famous story is when a U.S. Marine Harrier suffered a nose landing gear failure. The pilot managed to land the aircraft with his nose propped up on a special bench. Another example is the incident of a British Royal Navy Sea Harrier that lost navigation and fuel while searching for its aircraft carrier. The pilot eventually found a Spanish cargo ship and managed to land safely there. Although the incident was a mixture of shame and pride. The pilot survived. The aircraft was rescued, but he was still reprimanded for the incident. The Harrier is an innovative British design developed by aircraft manufacturer Hawker Siddeley in the 1960s. Despite being a British creation, the largest fleet of Harriers is operated by the U.S. Marine Corps. The second-generation Harrier was also jointly developed by the American aircraft manufacturer McDonnell Douglas. It is also operated by Spain, Italy, Thailand, and India. The Harrier is a remarkable engineering achievement. For decades, many nations have attempted to create an aircraft that could take off from short runways. In World War II, Germany tried using rockets to help aircraft take off from short runways, an idea that was later copied by the Americans. After the war, developing an aircraft that could take off from damaged runways became a priority, especially as the threat of nuclear war would destroy infrastructure. Several prototype VTOL vertical takeoff and landing aircraft appeared before the Harrier, but many were impractical. Examples include the Bell X-14, which had a downward thrust but was too weak, and the Hummingbird, which was too large due to its massive lift system. The British tried the Flying Bedstead, which showed promise but was not feasible to develop further. Other prototypes included the 5-engine Short SC.1 and a French design such as the 9-engine Balzac, which was abandoned after 2 fatal accidents. A simpler single-engine design eventually emerged thanks to French engineer Michel Vibeau, who created a concept with 4 centrifugal compressors mounted around the aircraft's center of gravity. This inspired British engineer Gordon Lewis, who later helped develop the Harrier's moving nozzle system. The first Harriers used the Pegasus engine, which was very powerful but took a long time to perfect. Early prototypes were prone to fires, were unstable, too heavy, and underpowered. However, engineers worked through these problems, and pilots began to learn how to handle the entirely new type of aircraft. However, the Harrier was not adopted in large numbers due to its limitations, such as its inability to fly supersonic, and therefore unable to intercept most Soviet aircraft. The British adopted the Harrier in 1969, followed by the US Marine Corps in 1971. The aircraft was designed to provide close air support as part of NATO's Cold War defense. The Soviet Union also developed a VTOL aircraft, the Yak-38, but its performance was far inferior to the Harrier. The Yak-38 was unreliable, with many fatal accidents. In the 1970s, due to budget cuts, the UK could no longer afford to maintain large aircraft carriers. The Harrier allowed the Royal Navy to use smaller, more affordable carriers. The Sea Harrier, introduced in 1978, was designed specifically for the Invincible-class carriers and played a key role in the 1982 Falklands War. In this conflict, 28 Harriers faced over 100 Argentine aircraft, including supersonic Mirage jets. The Harriers managed to down 20 enemy aircraft, support ground forces, and protect the fleet, without losing a single Harrier in air combat. The Harrier continued to be used in conflicts such as northern Iraq, Kosovo, and Bosnia. The second-generation Harrier used modern composite materials to reduce weight and improve performance. The Pegasus engine was upgraded to produce twice the power of the original design. The Harrier II had a maximum speed of Mach 0.9, a combat range of 300 nautical miles, and could carry up to 4,200 kilograms of weapons. The UK no longer operates the Harrier. However, the US Marine Corps still has over 100 second-generation Harriers, despite the transition to the F-35. While the Harrier has drawbacks such as speed, range, and a challenging safety record, it has proven itself in combat. The Harrier remains one of the most innovative and successful military aircraft designs of all time.